Hi peeps, so this video is all about the PS4 that I bought. It came with a funky controller, but it didn't have any motors in, which is the bits that provide the rumble either side. On some, the rumble packs work with offset weights soldered to the board, and when the game wants it, obviously it just triggers the motors, whatever side it wants. Luckily, I found a set on eBay, pretty cheap. So it's just, if I could open the controller, they're on standard Phillips screws anyway. Then it's just cleaning up the board with a bit of isoprop, preparing it and stuff, and then just resoldering it to the board. But making sure I don't forget anything on the way, and making sure the springs and that can go back the way they were. There were a couple of springs on the L1 and L2 buttons, I think they are, or L2R. That's it, L2 R2 buttons. So it's the left and right triggers, not the bumper buttons. As you can see from this image, there's no motors in there. Basically, that's where they sit in the bottom part of the controllers, where your palm would be. It's a bit hard to explain. But you'll see in a second when I turn it over. The big black bit in the middle is where the battery sits. Let's just go to the next image, you'll see a better idea. Right, so there you go. So you've got where the battery pack sits in the middle again, with its connector just to the left. I'll bring up a picture of that in a minute to see what battery life that's got. You might be interested in that. You can just see the motors off screen there on the right, and obviously they go, well, if it's obvious, but they go into this left hand and right hand. It looks like a semicircle, but I had to take most of the controller apart to get to it. Again, you can, where the triggers are just at the top of the screen, on the right hand one, you can just see a tiny little bit of a spring on the left, just underneath where of the main trigger. You can just see the button under the trigger. Just to the left of it, that little hinge of the springs just there. You got to be careful not to ping them out. They're pretty easy to put back in. I know some springs you have to like curl around a couple of times just to get the tension, but it's literally you just slide it on and put it back in, and it's got enough tension to return the trigger. This is a better view, just so you can see a bit better. You can see where the posi and neggy is on this, where the motor's soldered to the board. So just about where each, luckily the posi and neggy's labelled on this, but just where the motors sit, there's just enough cable to be soldered on there. Again, you'll have to use a bit of isoprop. You don't have to, but I do, with a cotton bud just to clean the pads up. Just so they solder a bit easy. You don't want to burn the pads away, because once you've done that, you've got a hell of a task trying to find where these motors locate to go elsewhere. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just making sure they stuck back in with the existing. The motors had a bit of sticky pad around the sides that stuck into the casing to stop them vibrating inside the controller, inside the casing, if you know what I mean, because you might get a loud buzz if they're not located or sitting in there right. Here's the battery. It's a 3.65 volt, 1000 milliamps. Just in case you wonder what that was. Obviously rechargeable. This is the control part of the controller you've got to get out to get to the housing for the motors. You see I've already put it in here, but all of this, excuse me, all of this is there's sort of press fittings on part of the pad motherboard, and when you take the controller apart, they sort of press fit onto pins. So again, you've got to be careful you don't contaminate the pads on board, otherwise you're going to get buttons that don't work, or if you've not screwed the case together, or you've done it wonky, you're going to get buttons that don't work. That piece in the middle there, that little bit of circuit board, that is one of the press pads. And again, that controls your speaker as well, and all the other little bits on that plastic part you can see there. So that obviously interfaces to the green motherboard on the bottom right of the screen. That's the touchpad and select button, and the PS button. Obviously, that's when you take the controller apart, you've got that little, where you've got that tiny little ribbon cable with the blue end. They literally just pull out. There's two of them you've got to be careful of. So yeah, be careful. Luckily I see them before I pulled the controller apart too much. That one there, the one that's still on the screen, that's, you won't see that until you try and take the green motherboard out, but yeah, just give that a tiny tug and it'll come out. I've tested all the buttons since I've done it and they all work, so I'm quite happy I've done it right. Again, when you're messing about controllers, don't touch any of them pads, them carbon pads where the D-pad and the triangle, square, circle buttons and whatnot are going to be, because if you contaminate them, your button might not make contact and push the button once it's back together. Again, on this green motherboard at the bottom of the screen, you can see where the pads touch the one that I was explaining before. So again, once you put it back together, make sure it's all square lined up. There's not bits, a bit of the board lopsided. Make sure it's screwed in properly. If you do need to do anything, or even take the rumble motors out, remember which way they go. I mean, I kind of guessed, because there's nothing really on the internet about it, but I kind of guessed which way the motors went round. But you can see the motors that I've already put back in here. One side is the clear sticky stuff that sticks onto the top of the housing. With this, as you can see in this picture, it's like number plate tape, which double-sided pad. It's sticky on the motor side, obviously, because it's stuck to the motor, but this side isn't sticky. It's just to create I don't know, I suppose a pad between the plastic housing and the motor, just to stop it vibrating against it. And the thing is, with these motors, you can put them in any way round, because obviously they're a perfect circle. I just thought, being sensible, that pad touches the bottom, because obviously that's the other side, the sticky bit touches the inside of the housing. So you can put them in any way, but I think if you put it in the wrong way, you're going to have problems with it bouncing about and coming out and not sticking in right, and it's going to create an awful noise. So yeah, just take note of this picture especially. Yeah, this is before soldering. This is when I put the motors in this housing. You just be careful of the cable, because I caught it as they went in. But again, you've not got a lot of wire to work with, so if you can save the existing wiring, save it, just tin them, make sure the pads are tinned good, and just solder straight in. Again, you don't really want to mess about. As soon as you start shortening the cable, you've not got a lot to work with. It is quite hard getting in there as it is, because they're so short. So unsoldering shouldn't be a problem, because it's got a bit of tension on the cable. It'll pull itself off, but soldering on is a bit of a nightmare. All I'm doing here is just preparing the board with the ISO prop, which is what I was on about earlier. It's a bit just to stop flux and stuff like that getting on board. Apparently flux eats away at boards if you don't take it off right, but I'd already tinned these a bit. Okay, so this is one useful tool. This is called Helping Hands. It's normally got a little magnifying glass on the middle stump there. I've taken it off, but basically you can hold a wire both ends, but it's good. I mean, I've got the wire on the pad now. You couldn't get the wire on the pad just holding it, not this small anyway. Well, you're at risk of burning yourself, but I mean, these are really good. The wire practically stays there if you can get the angle right. But yeah, this has got to help me get out of a couple of tricky situations soldering stuff like this in the past. There are a couple of quid on eBay if you need any. Brilliant, they just hold your work for you and away you go. They're all movable, you can move them up and down and take the crocodile clips out and adjust them, and you know, it's pretty good. Anyway, I'm going to solder these in. Yeah, see you soon. This is the board where I've isopropped and tinned. Just give it a bit more solder on the pads, ready for the wiring to go back on. This is the final result. So yeah, again you can see the wires look like they've got a bit of slack, but because they're quite stiff, you know, trying to solder them on as well as, yeah, it's a nightmare. If you come to do it, you'll find out anyway. But yeah, I think I've done a not bad job there. Okay, let's try this thing out. Excuse the cotton buds just for the isoprops, not my ears. Alright, so got all the lights working. Just see that because of the brightness. So we've got Call of Duty running, Advanced Warfare. Let's give it a bit of a shot. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that's fine. Brilliant. Sweet. This is the isoprop that I use, 99% pure alcohol. It's called rubbing alcohol as well if you want it. It's a couple of quid on eBay again if that's where you want to get it. And that's the stuff that I use to get rid of the flux and any other crap that's on the motherboard. The Sega Master System I'll be doing shortly. I'm sure I'm going to have to use that because I have found a couple of bad caps. I'm going to have to clean that board up soon as well. So yeah, watch your space. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sorry if I bored you, but it's geeky stuff. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. It should be the Sega Game Gear next. Like I say, I've found a couple of problems, so yeah, I'll keep you posted. See you later.